Blood doesn't mean backup. The brutal truth about family support. When crisis hits, when I first met Deidre Chandler, I knew I was in the presence of someone extraordinary. Not because she wore her pain like a badge, but because she transformed it into purpose with a fierce determination that changes lives. Here was a woman who walked through fire alone, completely alone, and emerged not just intact, but illuminated. Her groundbreaking work supporting Black women through caregiving crises has become a lifeline for thousands navigating similar journeys of isolation. Today, I'm sharing the radical insights from our conversation that will forever change how you think about family, responsibility, and what it truly means to show up. We all grow up believing certain promises about family, don't we? Blood is thicker than water. Family first. When crisis hits, your people circle the wagons. Having siblings means built in backup for life's hardest moments. But what happens when that fundamental assumption that blood guarantees backup crumbles beneath your feet? This isn't just a question, it's the brutal reality Deidre Chandler faced during what she calls her involuntary only child experience. Despite coming from a large, seemingly close knit family, when her mother suffered a devastating stroke followed by advancing dementia, Deidre found herself completely, utterly alone in providing care. For 3 years, three soul crushing, identity erasing years, while her siblings continued their lives largely untouched, she became, in every way that mattered, an only child. The isolation grew so profound that communication with her siblings broke down entirely for nearly a year. Think about that. Not just disagreements about care, complete silence. While she bathed her mother, managed medications, navigated the healthcare maze, and watched the woman who raised her disappear bit by bit, her siblings were absent, not physically absent. They lived nearby, emotionally absent, responsibility absent. This experience forced Deirdre to confront a truth many find unbearable. Blood relation doesn't automatically guarantee backup or shared responsibility when crisis strikes. The family you're born into may not be the family that shows up for you. This realization isn't just personally painful, it's culturally blasphemous. It challenges the very foundation of how we think about family systems. And it's a reality that disproportionately crushes women, particularly Black women, who often find themselves carrying impossible burdens alone, despite having what appears from the outside to be robust family networks. Let's pause here and really absorb what this means. The presence of family, even loving family, doesn't ensure support during life's most devastating moments. This isn't about villainizing anyone. It's about acknowledging a painful truth that countless caregivers silently endure while smiling through family photos and holiday gatherings. Through my conversation with Deirdre, three critical insights emerged that I believe can transform how we approach family responsibility and self preservation. First, you can feel utterly isolated even when surrounded by family, especially when caregiving falls solely on your shoulders. The physical presence of relatives doesn't guarantee emotional or practical support. Sometimes the most profound loneliness happens within family structures, not outside them. Deidre describes sitting at family gatherings where everyone asked about her mother, but no one, not one person, asked how she was surviving the crushing weight of 24/7 care. That silence became deafening. Second, speaking your truth about difficult situations often leads to disbelief or denial from those closest to you. As Deirdre discovered, Sometimes people would rather ignore pain than face it, even when that pain belongs to someone they love. When she finally broke down and told her siblings she couldn't do it alone anymore, their response wasn't to step up, it was to question whether things were really that bad. The truth can be uncomfortable, and many people choose comfort over confrontation every time. Third, and perhaps most devastatingly, taking on overwhelming responsibility without support can make you lose yourself completely. Deidre described looking in the mirror one day and not recognizing the woman staring back. She had become a walking function, feeding, bathing, medicating, with no identity beyond caregiving. But naming this reality out loud became her first crucial step toward reclaiming herself. These insights aren't just theoretical, they're playing out in measurable, documented ways across our society, particularly among Black women who often find themselves at the intersection of multiple caregiving expectations. In 2024, Black women started more new businesses than men within their demographic, with particular concentration in community services and personal assistance sectors. This entrepreneurial surge isn't coincidental. When I spoke with these founders, a pattern emerged. Many described how lack of family support during personal crises forced them to build alternative networks. They created the very resources they needed but couldn't find. Take Janelle, who launched a digital platform connecting isolated caregivers after her own experience caring for her father with Parkinson's, while her brothers helped by calling once a month to ask how things were going. Or Kimberly, whose home health care agency emerged from the ashes of her burnout after 3 years as her grandmother's sole caregiver, despite having four aunts living within driving distance. These women built networks outside their families, leaning on professional organizations and peer groups for emotional and business backing. The result? Thriving enterprises alongside new models of mutual aid among Black women founders. After years of systemic exclusion from mainstream funding and mentorship channels, these women created alternative communities, redefining what community means and who counts as real support. This pattern of creating support where none existed echoes what Deirdre had to do during her caregiving journey. When blood relatives couldn't or wouldn't show up, she had to reimagine what support could look like. The parallel becomes even clearer when we examine recent employment data. In April 2025 alone, over 100,000 jobs held by Black women vanished, representing the worst losses among any demographic group despite overall national job growth. Economic shocks hit hardest where safety nets are weakest, and many affected workers reported feeling abandoned not just professionally, but personally as well. Some of these women transformed diversity into advocacy, focusing specifically on supporting other isolated caregivers. They launched platforms connecting caregivers with resources or providing visibility for the invisible labor happening inside families. Their grassroots organizing has sparked vital conversations about redefining resilience beyond individual grit to include collective healing strategies. What's perhaps most remarkable is the resilience that emerges from these challenging circumstances. Recent research shows that despite major barriers, including lack of family or institutional help, Black entrepreneurs report higher confidence levels than peers from other backgrounds. They face persistent obstacles, including financial exclusion, skepticism from networks, including family, and emotional exhaustion from doing everything solo. Yet many develop extraordinary self reliance while seeking out mentors or allies outside immediate circles. They use storytelling as catharsis, processing pain publicly instead of suffering silently. This approach has led to higher rates of business launches, even under adverse conditions, and greater willingness to innovate around mental health supports within entrepreneurial spaces. As Deidre told me, naming my struggle, saying out loud, I feel like an only child, despite having siblings, wasn't weakness. It was the first step toward reclaiming my power. This brings us to the heart of what I believe is a transformative idea, the assumption that family automatically means support. It's not just sometimes wrong, it's dangerously misleading. It keeps people suffering in silence, believing their isolation is a personal failure rather than a common experience. By challenging this assumption, we create space for more honest conversations about care responsibilities. We make room for new models of support that don't rely exclusively on blood relations. And most importantly, we free people, particularly women, from the shame of feeling like they've somehow failed when family support doesn't materialize. As one of Deidre's mentees put it, I spent years thinking I wasn't trying hard enough to get my family involved in my mother's care. Hearing Deidre's story helped me realize it wasn't my failure. Some people simply won't show up no matter what you do. This realization doesn't mean giving up on family connections. Rather, it means approaching them with clear eyed realism instead of idealized expectations. It means creating support systems that include but don't exclusively rely on blood relations. And it means releasing the shame that comes from feeling like the only one carrying the weight. So I challenge you today, look around at your life. Who are you really leaning on? Who is actually showing up for you? Not just in words, but in actions. And more importantly, where are you directing your precious energy? If you're carrying everything alone because nobody else will step up, even if they should, it's time to name it out loud without shame. Your story might be the spark someone else needs to finally show up for themselves and for you. Don't wait until losing yourself becomes normal. Don't let silence steal your purpose. The family that sustains you might not be the one you were born into, and that's not a failure. It's a revelation. The most radical act of self preservation might be admitting that blood doesn't guarantee backup. And the most powerful community you build might be the one that forms when you finally speak that truth aloud. Your turn to speak begins now.